MC Benny.
Come on, East Africa. It's a party.
Tell them. Afrika Mashariki. Twaja pamoja.
From country to country, yeah. We gotta work together. We are leaders now. Aiming high for the better. Together. To make our nations greater. Now sharing to empower. So you lead, I lead, we lead together. So you lead, I lead, we lead together. We will lead, we will lead. Let your dream be a reality. We will lead, we will lead. Let your dream be a reality.
Together we'll shape with responsibility as young people. With ability, here we are to take the opportunity to raise the flag of East Africa. Together with love, together with peace, together respond to our need. Together transform our community as we see light and a bright future. Let's join hands for youth and women. Let's join hands for youth and women.
Afrika Mashariki yote twaungana, vijana vijana kutoka Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Burundi hadi South Sudan na Rwanda. Twaja pamoja ili fanye nini?
You lead,
Vijana
so you
wote.
lead, I lead, we lead together. So you lead, I lead, we lead together. We will lead, we will lead. Let your dream be a reality. We will lead, we will lead. Let your dream be a reality.
Distinguished young people and dear friends. It is a pleasure for me to inform you that this year's Youth Summit will be held from the 8th to the 12th of November in Arusha, Tanzania. As you may recall, the ULEAD Summit is being convened annually by the Secretary General of the East African Community in collaboration with the MS Training Center for Development Cooperation and other partners. It is heartwarming indeed to know that the 2021 ULEAD Summit will also be accessible to an Africa-wide audience via virtual platforms. This year's theme is the future of Africa, creating jobs, feeding and housing the world's youngest continent. I'd like to use this opportunity to invite you all to participate actively or virtually. I call upon policymakers, development partners, the private sector, media, civil society, and other stakeholders to be part of and support the East African community in convening this year's ULEAD Summit. I thank you and look forward to welcoming you all to the summit.
Good morning, Africa, from wherever you are. Thank you very much for coming. Can we all stand up and give ourselves a round of applause? Yeah! Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the ULEAD Summit 2021. Have a seat. Since 2017, the ULEAD Summit has been happening, but largely it has been East Africa. And we have been discussing young people and their position in East African leadership. But we thought, look, everyone is talking about Africa is the future. The future is Africa. And the future of Africa. And so we said, look, can we just make this conversation continental? This is why we're super excited to be having over 250 delegates in the room. Can we give ourselves a round of applause? We have over 1,000 people online. So thank you, Africa, for being part of the ULEAD Summit 2021. And we're going to be having a great time here. We'll have big names in the house, but most importantly, we will be discussing the future of Africa. Africa is a young continent. I'll just tell you a short story before we officially kickstart off. I had a team from Germany that I was meeting while back in Uganda, and I told them, welcome to Uganda, and they said, no, we have to be here. And I'm like, what did you just say? Yeah, Africa is the future. So I'm going to tell you, while everyone is looking at us as Africa as a future, do we actually know that we are the future? And how are we ready and prepared to lead the narrative? Everyone is talking about us. Listen, there's no conference I've been at and they're not talking about Africa. China is focusing its efforts to Africa. Russia. The EU. Everyone is looking at Africa. But are we as Africans ready for this? Well, my name is Solomon Serwanja and I'm super excited to be your host today. Let's give a round of applause to our hosts. That's Tanzania. Asante sana. Tunashukuru sana. Thank you very much for hosting us this year. And like I said, it's only fair that I recognize you all. So let's have a delegation from Kenya. I almost said Nairobi, but Kenya is bigger than Nairobi. The delegation from Kenya, can you stand up and we give you a round of applause? Yay! Karibuni sana. Whoa. Don't we all love you, Kenyans? Have a seat, please. Can we have also a delegation from Uganda, my motherland, the country I love so much? With love from Uganda, thank you so much for coming. From Rwanda, where are you? Yeah! Thank you so much for coming. From Burundi, where are you at? Yeah, I love the flag. Thank you. Welcome to Arusha. And from South Sudan. Woo! Whoa! Biggest delegation. My goodness. Welcome to the ULEAD Summit 2021. Ethiopia. Where are you at? Yeah! We love you, Ethiopia. Thank you so much for being part of the ULEAD Summit 2021. Oh, yeah. Tunisia, of course, I'm counting on. Tunisia, thank you very much for coming. Zimbabwe, where you at? Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. Nigeria. Whoa, Oga, welcome. welcome. South Sudan, yes, we all mentioned that. Tunisia, again, I want to welcome you. Let's welcome the Tunis people. You can still once again stand up, my darling. Yeah, let's give her some love. Thank you very much for coming. And a special thank you to everyone who is joining us online. So you should just go online, and we're trading with the hashtag ULEAD 2021. So if you're putting out a tweet, please put that hashtag and we'll be able to see it there. Again, I'm really super excited to have you. Now, since the East African community is hosting this gathering, I'd love us to pay respect to this community that I love so much with the national anthem, with the East African community anthem. Let's all rise up for the anthem. Franklin, let's roll the anthem.
Mungu twaomba uilinde Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Uzalendo pia mshikamano viwe msingi wa umoja wetu, na tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
All right, I will lead in a short prayer before we sit. Let's humble ourselves and pray. Dear God, we thank you for this summit. We pray that it is a blessing to all of us. Let us all deliberate and make Africa a great continent, and Africa the place that we call home, and shine that light to the world. We thank you for the organizers. In God's name we pray. Amen. All right, let's have a seat, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say a special thank you to our partners, the East African community. Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. MSTCDC, thank you very much for being our partners. Let's give them some love. Twaweza, thank you very much for partnering with us. Let's give them some love. The EU, thank you very much, the European Union, for being part of our partners for this year's ULEAD Summit. Come on, guys, let's appreciate them. UNDP, thank you very much for honoring and supporting us this year. We really are grateful. I'll be mentioning our partners as we go on. Without any further ado, we need to officially get this started. And I would need to invite Sodfa Daji, the ULEAD Summit Director, to come and give her opening remarks.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. Okay, let's try like this.
Hello, I think you should use this.
Great. Karibu, bienvenue, marhaba, and welcome. Excellencies, honorables, esteemed guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols remain observed. It is my utmost pleasure to welcome all to ULEAD Summit 2021. When I have been offered by the ULEAD Africa Secretariat the opportunity to be this year's Summit Director, I have accepted the challenge with lots of expectations, ambitions, but also fears of not being able to fulfill what was expected from me. I was wondering how best I could honor and include young people's concerns, challenges, and innovations within the 5 days of this year's summit. Luckily, the fears faded away by the time we commenced the work. The miracles made by the ULEAD Africa Secretariat, the East African Community Secretariat, and the MS Training Center for Development Cooperation are indescribable. To them, I owe my utmost gratitude for the guidance and support, for the technical expertise, for the sleepless nights, for the working weekends, and for uplifting each other's spirits when things seemed quite difficult. But surely being here would have not been possible without the guidance and support of our co-conveners. His Excellency Jakaya Kikwete and Honorable Dr. Peter Mathuki have showcased incommensurable belief on young people's voice and leadership, which brought us here today. Warm gratitude goes as well to Honorable John Mongella, Arusha Regional Commissioner, for opening the doors of the beautiful region and city of Arusha and facilitating the convening of young people from across the continent to convene for the next 5 days. A warm thanks goes to our supporters, sponsors, and partners that in the spirit of nothing for us without us, made it possible for us to convene and come together. I thank Tuaweza, GIZ-DAC, the Embassy of Swiss to Tanzania, UNDP, Oxfam, the European Union Delegation to Tanzania and EAC, Africans Rising, and the consortium members and partners of ULEAD Africa. We are still battling a pandemic with its restrictions and challenges, yet this year ULEAD is going bolder and stronger as one young Africa. With delegates from across the continent, we are expanding the conversation to ensure that young people's leadership, innovation, creativity, and aspirations are duly captured and shared. We will be together for the next 5 days. Today, the discussion is dedicated to youth in politics, reinventing leadership for African millennials. We will start with the Under 40 Political Leaders Forum, then we will head to the Policymakers and Development Partners Roundtable, and the end of the day will be the presidential address co-convened by His Excellency Jakaya Kikwete and Honorable Dr. Peter Mathuki. Tomorrow, the day will be dedicated to youth in business, trade, and enterprise. We will start with the presidential address, which will be followed by the launching ceremony of the EAC online digital skills matchmaking platform Skills Match, and the Under 40 Business Leaders Forum as the morning sessions. The afternoon will be dedicated to the Arusha debates. On Wednesday, we will be hosting the Arusha Peace Forum and the Gender Equality Forum, featuring the presidential address at MS Training Center for Development Cooperation. On Thursday, everything that has emerged from the 3 days of conversation will be compiled by all of us jointly to form the post-summit agenda. Indeed, we want you to tell us what are the interventions and priorities areas we should work on together. We will then wrap up the summit with the East Africa Tubonge on Friday. We will also offer evening and recreational activities, and this is my warm invitation for all of you to network, get to know each other, and build long-lasting friendships. ULEAD is not only an African youth leadership program, we are a community. As a youth advocate myself, in the years, I realized that there's nothing stronger than belonging to a community and feeling connected with youth. I am sure that this journey will be inspirational for all of us as we learn, grow, listen, and express our thoughts and concerns. This is my wish for all of you. Please have fun, raise questions, and express yourselves as there are no right and wrong answers. Get to know each other, build long-lasting memories. Welcome to You Lead Africa Summit and You Lead Africa family. I am confident this is just the start of a long journey that we are co-creating together. Thank you.
Round of applause to Sodfa Daji. Thank you very much. Sodfa is the ULEAD Summit Director. Thank you very much. She's really been working hard to ensure that this happens along with her team. So let's give the organizers a round of applause. They have been working extra hard. They haven't slept in a while, many of them. Yeah, but we appreciate you so much. Thank you very much. I now want to invite the Ambassador General, David Onen, the Principal Political Affairs Officer, the East African Community. You're very welcome to give your opening remarks. Welcome. Let's give Ambassador General some love. You're welcome, sir. You can use this microphone.
I don't want to supersede the honorable ambassadors and excellencies who are here. The Ambassador General title is a private and as an informal title from our East African Youth Ambassadors. So for the record, I'm only David Onen. I would like to take this time to welcome all of you. In particular, I want to recognize Your Excellencies, the ambassadors who have already reported in the conference hall. I'd like to recognize the honorable members of parliament from the national assemblies, from our partner states. A number of them are here. I would also like to recognize the presence of the representatives from partner states who are already here. Partner states are the countries that make the East African community. In a special way also, I would like to recognize the Executive Director for ECDC, with whom we are partnering as the East African community to host this event. Ladies and gentlemen, Sodfa has said it, and Solomon has said it, that we have had a team of young people behind this arrangement who have not been sleeping for the last 2 months, just to make sure that we have a colorful event, a meaningful engagement of the young people with the mentors. We continue to uphold, exalt, and always praise these young people. I think in one way or another, during this event, you'll get to know them, but they're just as young people as you know them. We also want to recognize our youth ambassadors, the East African Community Youth Ambassadors. You want to raise your hands if you're in the house? I know most of them are busy as part of the organizers. You won't see them many here, but they're also a very strong team with another team of young people who are at TCDC together working to bring this event to us. We can recognize all those guys who are watching and following from the online virtually. We recognize all of you. Finally, let me recognize our young people of East Africa and Africa. Where are you? I know Solomon has fire, I do have, but I don't want to reduce to bring down your fire. I can't do it as Solomon, but I want to make you also feel the fire you have. Ladies and gentlemen, You Lead Summit, as we call it. Director Ivan will explain more, but Youth Leadership Summit is one of the programs we are implementing as ESC together with the MS Training Center for Development Cooperation, where most of you are residing now. And based on the arrangement that in partnership, we can do bigger things. In partnership, we can do a lot better things. And for the youth programming and youth engagement, we thought the best partner, best cooperation partner would be the TCDC, a lot of capacity and space and technical capacity to organize and program for youth. And we also want to thank those other partners who come to support in terms of financing and other technical input. This arrangement covers a number of areas to do with the young people in skilling, youth leadership development, and many others that we are partnering with TCD to do. For us, as the conveners, we support the young people to do their own things. The leadership we are developing in the young people is to be practical and meaningful. And that's why we allow them to plan this event, we allow them to organize the event, we allow them to do everything about this event, and we help them from behind the scenes. And everything you see, anything you see done for this event is done by these young people. And we are proud of them. No wonder they say the youth are leaders of today, but not leaders of tomorrow. And this is the space we provide for those young guys, that they should excel and shine and show that they're capable and they're leaders now and not just for tomorrow. So we call upon all of you, the young people, with the support of their mentors, presenters, and for the conveners, under the leadership of the patron, His Excellency President Jakaya Kikwete, and the Secretary General of East African Community, that we be always behind you and we allow you to excel. This platform is for you to excel. And in excelling, you are excelling before the people who are supposed to support you, either by employing you or by engaging you or by developing in your career and so forth. They are here to see you. Don't disappoint them, and excel, show that you have the capacity and the capability you require. Finally, let me bring for you the greetings from the Secretary General. You will meet him in the afternoon during the official opening, the ceremony. But let me take this opportunity, because when he arrives here, I will not see my face easily. So I use this opportunity to convey the greetings from East African Community, and also on behalf of the Secretary General. From me to you is that you should enjoy while you engage meaningfully. Don't forget to take something home from here, either a new contact, new skill, something new, but also don't forget to leave something here that we don't have, but we can pick from you, both you, the young delegates, and the guests who are invited here. Enjoy Arusha, enjoy Tanzania. Thank you.
Ambassador General, just as they refer to you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. David Onen, Principal Political Affairs Officer, the East African Community, for officially welcoming us. I want to now invite Lisa Satoli, who is representing the ambassador, the European Union, to the East African Community, to give her opening remarks. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Honorable guests, delegates, and of course all the young people that are dialing in virtually today, all protocols observed, and thank you for joining us. First, I would like to actually join my predecessors in thanking the organizing committee and organizing partners to organizing this event, because I think it's an amazing opportunity for all of us to come together and speak about something that is so vitally important to all of us. I look at this banner, One Young Africa, and it just fills me with energy. I think it's an amazing and powerful theme. With such a young and vibrant population, I think the African continent has significant potential for young engagement and empowerment. Unlocking the true potential of Africa's youth would yield significant dividends for future generations. We've already seen the increasing leadership role of youth in fighting climate change, advancing digital entrepreneurship, and demanding sound democratic governance. Young people can and are already providing novel solutions to today's challenges, including most recently the COVID-19 pandemic. Youth has been actually identified as one of the key priorities of the European Union. The top EU official in charge of international partnerships and development cooperation, Jutta Urpilainen, at several occasions has stressed that it's not enough to remind ourselves that youth are our future, which is true, but youth is also more. You are the citizens in our societies. You are change agents who have a seat at the table where decisions are made. And this is why she set out youth as a priority for the EU strategy in Africa, and she spearheaded the EU Youth Strategy as a framework for EU youth cooperation for the period of between 2019 and 2027. The strategy aims to promote youth participation in democratic life. It also supports social and civic engagement and aims to ensure that all young people have the necessary resources to take part in society. The EU Youth Strategy focuses on 3 core areas of action, which is engage, connect, and empower. Now, through our work in Tanzania, we have come across numerous inspiring stories of positive change as part of our cooperation, and just a few examples of our interventions. So the EU has pledged to work on digitization in Tanzania as one of the key areas for future support and streamlining digital solutions in all actions, including the Digital Opportunity Traineeship Initiative, which provides cross-border higher education traineeship for students and recent graduates. Furthermore, the EU is also a key partner in revolutionizing Tanzania's innovation ecosystem, committing to offer financial support to boost innovation and entrepreneurship in Tanzania, in particular for women and youth. And we do this together with our partners UNDP and FCDO through the new Funguo program, which will support women and youth innovation entrepreneurs to get their businesses market ready and to an investable state. The program will furthermore work to facilitate access to finance for innovative women and youth-led micro, small enterprises with growth potential. Now, to conclude my remarks, I would also like to emphasize the importance of diversity and inclusion. Youth do not represent a homogeneous and static group. We need to acknowledge their diversity in culture and backgrounds and address inequalities, which is crucial to ensure quality and comprehensive support to boys and girls, young men and young women in their transition from childhood to adulthood. Concerted action on diversity and inclusion remains a key instrument to make sure that the young generation is supported to develop, achieve, and reach their full potential. So, all of this to say that the EU is a proud supporter of this opportunity to discuss youth engagement and empowerment during this summit. So thank you again for the organizing committee, and thank you again for all of you to participate and working together to push young people's participation, active role, and visibility in this continent. I'm very hopeful that our discussions will contribute to creating an enabling environment for young people, not only in Tanzania, but in the entire continent. The presence in this room of policymakers and development partners and young people and delegates from all over proves the importance that we attach to the youth agenda. Asanteni sana.
Asante sana. Tunashukuru pia. Thank you very much, Lisa. Let's give her another round of applause. Lisa Satoli has been representing the EU delegation to the East African community. Thank you very much for supporting the young people of Africa. All right, so I'm really want to say a special thank you once again to everyone who has come. Tony, Otoa, it's good to have you. Welcome to Arusha, Karibuni Tena. We are going to go for our next session, which is the Under 40 Political Leaders Forum, which is a round table for the National Youth Council, representative and young parliamentarians. And this session is going to be moderated by Stella Agara, who is the Strategic and Technical Advisor, Partnerships, Global and Continental Engagements. And Stella is here. Stella, you're very welcome. If you are online and putting out a tweet, you can follow our conversation and you can add a hashtag YouLead2021, YouLead21. And you can also tag us at One Young Africa and at ESC YAP. So we'll be able to get your views and comments. Thank you so much for the virtual audience that is online, and we will be able to get your comments later on as we continue. Stella, you're very welcome for this session. And yeah, we're super excited to have you, Stella, back in Arusha. You're welcome. You want to use this mic, Stella?
Yeah, it works.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Seriwanja, for the introduction and for leading us to this conversation. It's always a pleasure co-hosting with you. A good morning to everyone in the room. A good morning to everyone in the room. I will only speak when I hear your voice. Welcome to ULEAD 2021. And I'm going to be your moderator for this session. My name is Stella Agara, and I'm going to just invite my guests to come and join this conversation. I need to call out the names of the speakers so that they can all take their positions just before we start the conversation. I think one of my speakers is Madam Risha. Could you please come closer to a microphone, maybe? One of the ones on the desks in front. Thank you. Thank you very much. Another is first of all, a representative from Kenya, Roy, I saw you coming in, welcome. We acknowledge your presence here. Roy Sasakatelewa is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Youth Council in Kenya. We have from Uganda, Jacob Beyeru, the Chairman of the National Youth Council of Uganda. Jacob, nice to have you here. We have we also have the Honorable Okot Boniface. I saw you on the panel somewhere. Welcome. We have the Honorable Nyamutoro Fiona joining us in this conversation. Okay, and then we have Honorable Ruguma Edson. Good to see you again after a very long time. Welcome aboard. The Honorable Eche Barry Wanji is a bit late for this meeting, and he's the head of delegation for South Sudan. He's going to be replaced on the panel by Honorable Nyayang Riek. I hope I pronounced your name right. Thank you very much. We have Honorable Mabior Riny Lual, who's sitting on the table right opposite me. Welcome. And then we also have, I have to pronounce these names right. Work with me, good people. We have Honorable Guy Mayen sitting right next to Honorable Mabior. Welcome. We have Africana Jury joining us from One Campaign. I also have the Honorable Samson Naikumbwayo. Let me not massacre your name. Welcome. Sitting next to my last speaker, who is Ivan Atuyambe, going to be part of the discussions. And then, of course, we have Lamin Saidi Khan of Africa Rising, who are going to be joining me in this conversation. I promise you it shall be a great ride. Please fasten your seatbelt and enjoy this. Risha, the floor is yours. Seba, if you could get me the presentation, please. as you're waiting for the presentation, kindly forgive me, Honorable Gola, Oyoi Gola, for getting you and you're sitting right next to me. Welcome to this conversation. I shall ensure that I give you extra time in the conversation to apologize for my sins. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Seba, can I please have the presentation? We're ready for you, Risha.
Okay, thank you. Can you put it in present mode, whoever is in charge of that, please?
Shadrach, Seba, could we have it on present mode?
So good morning, everybody. Excellencies, honorables, and distinguished guests and delegates. Can you hear me? Hi, can you hear me? Is that a bit better? Okay, yeah, I was thinking this. The sound is a bit difficult, so please bear with me. But good morning, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Risha Chande. I work for Twaweza East Africa, and we're partnering with the U-Lead Summit in 2021 for the first time. So I'm really happy to be able to address you this morning. I'm going to try and not send you to sleep and share some insight and data from Twaweza's work and from other people's work about young people's political participation, essentially. I'm not going to, I won't give you any background about Twaweza here, but you're welcome to come and find me to talk about that. All right, so starting with data. Just quickly to mention the sources of data that I'm going to reference here. Twaweza in 2019 conducted, in partnership with Shujaz Inc., a cross-sectional survey of 2,100 young people. I'll also be referring to data from Twaweza's own mobile phone polling infrastructure called Sauti za Wananchi, the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, and Afrobarometer. Sorry, the sound is really strange. I am hoping you can hear me. Or is it kind of cutting in and out? Because that's what I hear. Okay? All right, I'm going to keep going. Just to talk quickly about Sauti za Wananchi, because it's a piece of Twaweza's work that we're really proud of. Mobile phone polling, as I said. It's really designed to kind of reduce the cost and time it takes to collect representative data from citizens. And the idea is to really collect citizens' experiences, their views, and have that feed into kind of decision making. And we can do that, essentially think of an idea, and then in the space of 5 weeks we have the data for that question. Can you hear me? Okay, I guess I just have to really be putting it right at my mouth. Okay, that's normally bad practice with microphones, especially in Corona, but I'll keep trying. All right, so my first data point is one I'm sure you're going to be, sorry, next 3 slides, please, that you're going to be seeing a lot over these 5 days, which is about population. Next slide, please. Next. 2. Basically, the population of East Africa is incredibly young. At the moment, 71% of people in East Africa are aged under 30. As we go forward, you will see a bit more of a kind of balancing out of population, but at the moment, we really are the majority, those of us who are under 30. Next slide, please. Next one. Next one. Sorry, it's looking at data, so I feel you have to look at it in order for it to work. Next one. And one more. Thank you. So now I'm just presenting a small kind of next one, please. Small profile of young people aged between 15 and 24. So I've tried to highlight some of the things I thought were quite interesting. So you have a slightly greater population of women than men. Many young people are still living in rural areas. I think probably as we're in Arusha, and many of us may be young urban citizens, we can forget about our peers in rural areas, but I think it's really important to remember that most young people are still living in rural areas. The other point I wanted to highlight is that between ages 15 and 24, you really see that a lot of young people, so 39% of 15 to 19-year-olds and 70% of 20 to 24-year-olds have a side job or a hustle, which means they're working, they're generating income, they're trying to make contributions to meet their needs. And then the next set of data that I thought was interesting to share with you, all of you, is very few, 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 5 young people feel that they have enough money to cover their needs and wants most of the days. Despite this, over 70% feel in charge of their lives. So we feel, we have control over our lives. I think that's a positive thing, and we should keep it going. And then lastly, around 70% similarly believe their lives will be better in a year's time. So despite having difficulties in meeting their daily needs, you see a lot of optimism and energy among young people. Next slide, please. So now I want to talk a bit about the, next slide, please, a bit about the kind of formal political structures of participation and young people engaging in those. What we see in the data from Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda is that young people are far less likely to participate in village meetings, and again, even less likely to speak or raise an issue in those meetings. So I've circled there the kind of data relevant to 18 to 24-year-olds, and you can see that that is much lower than as we go up in the age group. So this is telling us that young people are struggling to engage with the hyper-local formal mechanisms of participation. This is, as I said, data from Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, and really about village-level meetings. So we see that there is a level of disengagement, and certainly when you compare to older people. Just to drill down on that a little bit, in our work with Shujaz Inc., we found that 21% of young people, this is in Tanzania, have said that they've ever attended a village or town hall meeting, and it goes all the way down to 3% when people are talking about whether they've spoken at those meetings. The other thing I wanted to highlight here is that there's some interesting, young people agree, 1 out of 3 young people agree that they have their own forums to raise issues and solve problems. So when we're thinking about, how do we sort of represent youth and encourage them to participate, and we're finding that there's perhaps a lack of participation in the kind of formal mechanisms such as village meetings, yet young people are saying, many of them are saying, well, I have other spaces in which I do solve my own problems. There's also about 1 in 5 young people across the board think things like young women are not supposed to speak at village meetings. There are no issues that are relevant to me that are discussed at village meetings. If I attend a village meeting, I'll be forced to do free work for the community. 1 out of 5 young people think that. This is in Tanzania. Or if I attend, I will never be allowed to speak. Or village meetings are not for young people, they're actually for old people, older people. So you see that there is a bit of a sense of disillusionment around these kind of formal mechanisms. Next slide twice, please. I also look a little bit here, I'm sharing data from Afrobarometer about, the next one please, about how much young people are engaging, how much they trust different leaders and institutions. And so we can see again that when compared to the kind of oldest age bracket, young people age 18 to 25 in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda do not have as much trust in in their MPs, in the National Electoral Commission, and in the courts of law, and in the presidents of their respective countries. So again, this is sort of echoing that point that, if we're speaking about youth representation, youth engagement in formal mechanisms of politics, there are some challenges here. Next slide, please. Yet, at the same time, we see, again, in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, among young people, they're more likely to say they will be willing to participate in demonstrations. So that's a different type of legitimate political action that they could be taking, and you see that young people are much more likely than older people, especially as you get to that highest age bracket, are much more likely to say, yes, actually, if something makes me unhappy, I'm willing to participate in a demonstration. Now, I think this is something to be thought about, because if we are not finding voice and space and agency and the ability to get our problems solved in some of these kind of formal mechanisms of participation, then perhaps we're more willing to go out into the street and make those demands in a different way. Next slide, please. All right, now I'm going to provide some kind of qualitative insights. Again, some work we did with Shujaz Inc. Next slide, please. This was basically based on, this is qualitative work, so smaller numbers, focus groups in Dar es Salaam, Kagera, Dodoma, and Lindi, so Tanzania focused again. But I think some of this bears out. We did similar research in Uganda in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, and some of these findings really do carry across. Next slide, please. What we find is that young people feel that they're told from an early age not to challenge authority, in whatever form it comes. Adults, parents, teachers in school, elders, and if they do challenge authority, they feel they get punished. And this means that there is a general sort of sense of fear about standing up and speaking out, particularly against different forms of power or faces of power. We also find that young people say that they tend to start engaging with government when they really have to. So, I need that letter from my village chair, or I need a driving license. That's when I start going to speak to my government, not because I think, oh, that's a way for me to solve a problem or get something done. And what they, by and large, say is that dealing with local authorities is cumbersome and they have negative experiences. Next slide, please. Apart from that, they also, as we've seen, I think, in the data, you see that young people do not feel that village meetings are really spaces for them to raise their issues, for them to problem solve, and they don't feel that they will be listened to by local leaders. Apart from all of this, there's a minority of young people who describe themselves as connected with government. This tends to be through a personal relationship, or perhaps they've been part of an initiative that's brought them into contact with the government, and they describe much more positive engagements and experiences, but also specifically that a lot of these interactions happen outside of government facilities. So again, you're looking at those formal spaces in the institution. Maybe things are happening less effectively, but maybe if I have a connection with somebody outside and we can have dialogue outside that space and be open with each other, then I can have a productive engagement. As a result of this qualitative work and the cross-sectional survey, which I presented a little while ago, we came up with this. I suppose it's like a scale of how young. Next slide, please, sir. Young people really view kind of government, engaging with government, and their role. And so what you see is there's quite a lot of kind of negativity. You have the sort of disinterested. They just don't see any value or relevance to them with engaging with formal spaces of participation, not going to go to meetings, not really interested in engaging with their government as such. Agnostic, or maybe I would say apathetic. So these are people who maybe had to go get the driving license, had that experience, and then that was it. They didn't feel any further need to really engage with their government or try and make things happen in that way. And then you get these people that are disappointed. They've had a bad experience. So they're kind of starting in a negative space already. They're not neutral. They already have impressions and they are negative. And so in order to try and encourage these young people to become more engaged, to become more active, we're all going to have to do a lot of extra work, because they're starting, from a sort of below zero space. And then you see these kind of positive and negative deviants, we've called them. So the positive deviants, perhaps they've met with government officials, they have these personal connections, they have positive experiences, and that encourages them to keep engaging and to keep kind of, seeing engaging with government as a way to solve their own problems. But then you also have these young people who are, who just in some way they go against the grain. They're vocal from an early age, despite all the pressure not to be. And these people are described even amongst their peers as, in Kiswahili we say wakorofi, naughty, like not the good ones. They're the ones who don't have anything to lose. They take the risk of standing up to authority. And so these people in a way are engaging. They're trying to make their lives and the lives of their peers better through being vocal, and yet they're not receiving positive reinforcement from their peers. Actually, they're being branded as naughty, as bad, as, oh, these are people with nothing to lose. They take too many risks. All right, next slide, please. So that's a little bit of insight on how young people are kind of describing their relationships with governments and their interactions with government. Next slide, please. So now I'm just going to go into a few ideas. I'm almost at the end. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit, next slide please, about a piece of work that Twaweza does. We engage in around 45 communities in Tanzania and 24 in Uganda. The idea is to go into these communities, select young people, one male, one female, who are, who meet certain criteria, who are passionate about bringing change in their communities, who are well respected in the community, who are interested in kind of taking this work forward. And we train them in listening, problem solving, facilitation, engagement, a lot of different skills. And then they go out into their own community and run what we call participatory action research programs. They work with different groups in the community to identify sort of priority areas. What challenges are you facing? What's the most important and why? And we particularly talk to groups separately so that you make sure you're really hearing all different people's voices. So people with disabilities, young women who are often really silenced, We talk to all these different groups. And then the community comes together, normally through a kind of existing formal mechanism like a village meeting, and from all those priorities that were identified from the different groups, they come together as a community and develop now their joint list of priorities and make an action plan to fix those issues. And what we find is that we have been able to solve hundreds of service delivery challenges in these communities in which we're working, but also you see young people engaging a little more in the village meetings in these areas, being more willing to speak out, seeing that as a space for constructive problem solving more than they used to. Next slide, please. And so we've tried to think about what is the sort of successful, what can work in terms of trying to think about integrating young people into the formal sort of mechanisms for participation, but also making sure they have their own spaces and they feel they're able to, solve their problems and get things done. So one of the things we found really successful is this integration of sort of informal and formal spaces. So in the example I just described to you, you have, people meeting in groups that are outside of formal spaces. They're discussing, they feel free, they feel open to talk to each other, to challenge each other. And then finally, those discussions are brought into the formal space of the village meeting. So you are integrating it into the systems that exist for participation and engagement. We also find it's really helpful to, often if we go into communities as activists, we may have the agendas that we're trying to push, the points we want to make, the things we want people to support. But actually just going and trying to be driven by the community's own agenda and saying, what are your major problems in this area? What do you want to see happen? Is really powerful in terms of problem solving, but also as a sort of process of empowerment in and of itself. Often these communities are saying, oh, okay, wow, you want to know what we want to have happen. This idea of positive reinforcement and modeling, showing that it's possible to have positive interactions, it's possible to model a different type of engagement, to share those kind of stories of success when young people and government officials and local leaders can come together and make things happen. We also find that developing capacity, conscientization is a really important ingredient to sort of supporting young people to realize their potential. I can't say the word well, conscientization, but it's important to me. I think we do a lot of sort of training for training's sake, and I want to mark this as separate, that it's a process not just of imparting knowledge, but actually of trying to help people think about their own power, the power within them, essentially. Also, as I said, really creating spaces for diverse voices, including as broad of a constituency as possible. If we represent 70% of the population of East Africa, that means there's a lot of different type of young people, right? And we have to make sure that we're trying to kind of create as broad-based engagement and dialogue as possible. I think it was Sodfa, who said, being part of a community is so important. Absolutely. Imagine if you are one of these vocal young people in a community in Kagera, constantly being branded for wanting to make your community better. It's really important to be able to share and exchange with people like you, with people who feel the same way, so you can reinforce each other, you can encourage each other, you can learn from each other. And then the last one is really on data and evidence. It's very important to be able to kind of back up the points you want to make, especially when you're engaging with government officials. Have the evidence at hand, have the data if you can. I think for the sake of time, I know I've already kind of taken a bit more time than I should. We can just go to the last slide, which is my thank you. Thank you so much for listening to me. I wish you really productive deliberations and discussions over the next 5 days. As I said, we're so excited to be part of the conversation. And I think, we really are going to be building the future here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Risha, for that presentation. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you had some of the insights from this report. I found it interesting that young people are far less likely to participate in village meetings. They will be forced to free work for the community. I don't know whether leaders actually free work for the community before they get there. Young people are a little less likely to trust leaders and key institutions. So they will not trust the people who offer to free work for the community. They are more likely to say they will be part of the solution. They fear challenging authority because of the training and upbringing that they have been taken through. And there's a minority of them who are connected to government. I don't know what is the value of being connected to government. But my powerful panel is going to help me explore some of that. And the first question I'm going to be asking all my panelists, I'll start with the sitting members of parliament. I'll name them one by one, is to give us the one thing that young people must do to get where you are. Because we've heard what the report has said. Risha has quite eloquently elaborated what youth prefer to be. But we need to find out from you, you have already gotten there. What is this one thing that young people must choose to be or to do in order to be able to reach the level of power? I don't want two, I just need one. And let it be your golden one. Let me start with Honorable Guy Mayen. What is that one thing that young people must do to get to where you are?
Thank you so much, moderator. I want to, in a very special way, welcome all the distinguished delegates to this special platform of ULEAD Summit 2021. I also want to appreciate the patron, a man that I look up to a lot, former president of Tanzania, Jakaya Kikwete, for convening with the youth of Africa, and East Africa in particular, to share important ideas on how they can make progress and be part of the development of Africa as a continent. Coming to the question, I am very honored as a person to give my view on this important topic. I do believe that it is very timely for young people to have this kind of discussion as to how they can take part in the decision making, sit at the decision making table, now together with the elderly people, something that is unprecedented in the African setting. From the presentation that my sister just gave a while ago, I picked one key thing, and that is the fact that most young people are alienated, from the decision-making table because of the stereotype that leadership is for the elderly people. Today, the world has changed very drastically. Something that would take a whole lifetime for someone to know, you can learn it in a single month in the library. So that means we as young people are equipped with the necessary tools and information to enable us to participate in the decision-making table. Now, what I can, give as an instant example.
Honorable member, allow me to give the others time to give their own, and then I'll come back to take the examples. Honorable Mabior, you're sitting right next to him. Please tell these young people the one thing that they need to do to get to where you are.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. First of all, young people have to know that to be young is not a disability, and to be old is not to be wise. We have old people who do not have knowledge that we young people have. So the best thing for young people is that they have to be rebellious, not to be, pinned down by their cultures. They have to, break away from this cocoon. They have to break away from these cultures that are bringing them down, and then they have to sit on the same table with all people, discuss the issues, take lead, in their own lives instead of leaving them in the hands of their parents and the old people. This is what I can tell young people in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mabior. Franklin, if the microphone could be brought to Onyayang. We are being told that we need to break out of the cocoon and stop fearing. Franklin, if the microphone could be sanitized and brought to Honorable Nyang. And Honorable Mayen says that you must join the decision-making table, sit with the elders and make decisions with them. Honorable Nyang, what is your secret to getting to where you are?
Thank you so much, the moderator. I think into politics or into the key position in the government as a youth, you must have a foundation, and that foundation, it is under political parties. All youth believe that all of them are activists, which some of them have not party. For you, you will never make it to be a good politician without any party. Therefore, I believe all the youth should be under political party, whether being in ground, center, the national government. We encourage youth to be under registered political parties to influence their leaders in their political party, to let them also participate in decision making. You must be under political party, not an activist throughout.
Very important. You must be in a political party. Don't be an activist throughout. At some point, come in and offer the kind of leadership you suspect that you want the leaders who are in power to provide. I will quickly move to Uganda, the Honorable Okot Boniface. What is your secret? That one big secret that will get young people to the place where you are now.
I have many secrets,
I just want one.
but you want one.
Yes, the biggest.
So I'll go ahead to share with you. Thank you. One of the greatest undoings to our progress as Africa with our young people is ideological in nature, ideological disorientation, mindset. Everything that appears in the physical starts with the mind. So in my opinion, transformation of any young person will begin with a mindset change. I listened to the story of my sister who shared a presentation earlier on about the challenges that she saw with the communities in Tanzania, and then how there was a shift. And the shift only emanated when they engaged these communities and changed their minds to begin thinking positively. Franz Fanon, in his book, The Wretched of the Earth, shares very clearly about generational missions. I normally share this everywhere I go, that every generation out of relative obscurity must be able to identify its mission, and you choose to either betray this mission or fulfill it. The identification of this mission is purely in the mind. So I believe that that's why I'm an advocate for youth service schemes for all our countries as East Africa, so that we deal with the mind first, and then the rest will come eventually. Thank you.
Deal with the mind, have quality minds to be able to provide the kind of leadership that is required and to be able to qualify to rise to the next level. Honorable Rugumayo Edson, I knew you a very long time ago while you're busy campaigning, and you are constantly going to the village doing what Risha described as free working for the community. Is that your biggest secret, or there's another one?
Definitely, if you asked for a secret, expect a very honest one from me. In my humble opinion, if we are to speak to the young people honestly and tell them the secret, I think we would tell them not to continue focusing on only biographies, but also understand that all men that stand out high only stand because they have been able to stand on the shoulders of giants. What sets us back as Africa is the lack of deliberate and intentional mentorship. So it is important that if young people want to break the barriers around themselves, they should by all means meet on their way a supportive structure. Those people that they are willing to listen to, learn from, even when they have not achieved much, but they should be able to learn. And this does not only work in the political sphere, but in every field that every young person is passionate and wants to excel. Yeah, that there must be that supportive structure that helps them excel.
Thank you very much for that, Honorable Ngumayo. I'm going to quickly jump onto the National Youth Councils. I don't know if the interests are different or if it's similar to the sitting members of parliament. Roy Sasaka, let me start with you. Just because we are both Kenyans, what is your secret of getting to where you are? How do the young people in this room become CEOs of National Youth Councils in their countries? What do they need to be? Is it the suit?
No, thank you so much, Stella. Actually, I've been fought for wearing suits, so sometimes you walk into a room and the discussion is about your power suit. But going into the discussion, and Stella, you gave us a hint that we should just share our personal experiences, not give speeches, and I'm just going to share my personal experiences. At some point back a few years ago, a young person reporting to someone who was my head of department where I was working, I realized that it was time for me to try and grow myself. So I applied for this job of a head of a procurement in a national organization. I will not mention names. So I prepare myself for the interview. I walk in, dressed very well. Of course, when I was going for the interview, I asked my boss if he could allow me to go for a meeting somewhere. He said, today work is so much, so I think I will allow you to go tomorrow, so if you can schedule. So I had to come up with an excuse, youth creativity, and say maybe I will not tell you what I said, but he allowed me to go for that meeting that I was going for. I walk into the holding room, and I meet my boss as well there, waiting for the same interview. And as a young person, you ask yourself, you can imagine what was going through my mind. I'm sweating, I'm wondering, what is it that I'm going to say in the interview to convince the panel to give me a job? In fact, my default set was, can I just walk out of the room because this job is not going to be mine by default. So I do that back, I have a conversation with myself, and I said, because I'm here, let me just go in, the power of showing up. Let me just walk into that interview, let me give it my best, and I don't know what I'm going to say. To cut the long story short, but I will share it, I think, with my fellow young people when we get time, is that at the end of that interview process, it was even a shocker to me that at the end of the interview process, I came out the best. And my boss was also the best, but the third in line as we look at the scoring. So when I look at that personal success story, I see that as young people, we need to know and believe in the power of showing up. You need to show up. Because I had the choice of backing up and leaving that room, and I will not have been the youngest, actually, head of department in a serious organization in government, actually the Central Bank of Kenya, KDIC. So when I look at that, beyond that, I also see the power of trusting yourself, building your own resilience. There is something that I read that inspires me so much. It's called authenticity paradox. That every one of us seated in this room, at some point, you may feel inadequate. Even when you're coming to this panel, I know you're prepared, you're going to nail it. But at some point, you may feel inadequate and feel like you need a second to use the washroom. It's okay. Because at every given time, you're not born a member of parliament, you're not born a CEO, you're not born the youth advocate that you are. But at one point, you were given that opportunity. But because you felt inadequate, you did more as a young person to prepare yourself for that opportunity. So as young people, let's show up, let's believe in ourselves, and let's also build personal resilience. Because at some point, challenges are so many. You may go through a lot, but if you know that they're going in, and quickly, even where I am right now, as I work on my transition, because a few years down, I'll be exiting the youth bracket. So allow me to also share another story, that you walk into rooms where you feel that you are...
Roy.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to give you another chance to speak, and hopefully you'll share the story then. I really need to hear all the secrets so that the youth in this room hear them, and they also are able to compare what you had to be to get to where you are to what they are sharing in the report. I'm quickly going to go to Jacob Beyeru, and I see Uganda. How do the young people in this room become as eloquent as you are and reach the level of becoming the chairman of the National Youth Council, or Mr. President, as I normally call you?
Thank you. Um, Firstly, I want to thank everyone for showing up, like Roy has said. So I think that we've showed up in the numbers that are necessary. I want to say very quickly that for me, it's a demographic question. The reality that we have in Africa cannot allow young people to be bystanders. The demographic reality. The numbers cannot allow us to be bystanders. The hopes of our people all over the continent, starting here in Tanzania. I come from a country that literally prides itself in saying we are among the youngest in the world. Those numbers define the democracy. Those numbers define the poverty level. They define the education level. They defined all the indicators of development. And so for me, participation is serious, necessary business. It's not for the pomp and the aura and the money that comes with it. It's for what can we do for Africa to work and achieve for its people. That's the drive, and that's a secret for me. And so you'll find that when we are dancing with young people, I'll dance, and we'll do everything necessary so that they can feel as much a part of me giving them audience, as much as when we are in this room and we have to speak the serious stuff to their minds. So they can hear that part of us, and they can see that among our number, there can be those of us that can see far and can strategize for Africa to go far. I think my biggest secret, in that nutshell sense that you want, is to have understood that at the time of our independence, all the actors across Africa were people that were coming from their universities. They had just graduated. Some dropped out of university. Some had just entered their teaching professions. And these were the people in their minute numbers. In Uganda, where we came from at our independence, we had about just about 120 graduates. And they were supposed to now take over and run the country. They were between the ages of 20 and 30. So that responsibility has been carried before by our young people. And that responsibility must be carried ahead by the sheer numbers and the demographic demonstrated by our numbers. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Understanding that all freedom fighters, all those who liberated us from our colonizers were young when they did it, and taking advantage of our demographic. Let me move quickly to South Sudan. Gola Boyoi Gola, you are part of a very powerful organization, the South Sudan Youth Union. Very powerful, very organized organization. And you are actually at the helm of this organization. What should the youth here do to be able to reach those levels of leadership?
Thank you very much, moderator, honorable MPs, my colleagues, delegates. Good morning to all of you. I'm going to be very specific by answering this question. To me, the secret behind where I am today is, number one, determination, commitment, and believing in myself. I don't know if I'm different from all the young people in this hall, but I'm kind of person, when I say that I have to do this, I have to do it. And I believe in, I don't know, there is a book called Secret. I don't know if some of you went through that book or read it. It's actually, it's talking about what I've been doing all along. Until when I came and read that book, I found out what I was practicing is already was on that book. Even if I'm traveling today, if I say that I have to wake up at 3 a.m., I will actually going to wake up at 3 a.m. So I always put my things ahead and I determine what am I going to do next. And before coming to this leadership, I sat with myself and I was actually planning to run for a biggest position like an MP or something like that. But then I said, no, let me start small. And when I went And the the election in South Sudan for National Youth Union is one of the toughest election. And by then we were more than 32 states. And I have to convince the delegate from all these 32 states. And I'm glad that one of our MPs is here, is a person that helped me develop my campaign strategies and manifesto and all this. His name is Honorable Digmoy Obor, is among the young parliamentarians who are here. We went through a lot, but through determination and believing myself, that is why I'm where I am today. But the one secret also I want to give it to the young people in this summit is that we always need to be prepared. Preparation is better because if you are well prepared and have no opportunity, it's better than having opportunity and not being prepared. So we have to prepare ourselves, although we are fighting for our spaces, but if we are not prepared, how are we going to get the opportunities? So, had the preparation, we need to teach ourselves leadership, because at the end of the day, we are leaders of today and tomorrow. And for us to succeed our elders, if we are not prepared, then they are not even trust us to hand over the leadership or the position to the young people. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gola. I will quickly go to. Let me first of all hear from Africana and Mohammed before we take the microphone that way. Africana, your secret. Not everyone in this room wants to be a politician. How do they get to where you are?
Yeah, these are different times. I don't know if I'm sitting with the MPs as a signer that will be an MP in future. God knows. Anyway, we are all leaders in our different capacities, and I hope you're taking notes of each and every nugget that is being shared here, because it's really golden. I think the one thing I haven't had also is the power of connection, the power of networking, linking up with your friend and working together. You've seen different programs being launched by organizations, and I know that you're here by representation or nomination, or even sponsorship by someone else. And if you are connected, you're able to work together, and you're also able to affirm each other that I can do it, you know? And the power of connection is not just within, high-level platforms, but also within your community. And so back to the point on initiative, taking initiative and being a leader, you have to take initiative to do something small within where you are, whether it's attending that baraza, as small as attendance, to actually engaging and saying, hey, I'm challenging this point and I believe that these points are what ought to be represented for us. Or, you're not feeling that we are accountable, because the disillusionment is because we don't feel that leaders are accountable to us. The challenges of corruption are there. So people don't feel that they should be participating. And then add on to that, the culture. So for instance, for women, the double, issue of you're a young person, you're a woman, becomes harder to access such platforms. So connect with people who are like-minded and be supported. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Africana. Connection, networking, working with giants, working with your peers, and ensuring that you support each other. Lamin, there was a time Ivan called me, and as we were having the conversation, you were in the room, and he said, do you know who this person is here? And I said, I know him very well. Your name, your reputation precedes you in this continent. I am asking, on behalf of all the youth in the room, what can I do for my name to move in the continent like yours when I grow up?
All right, thank you so much, Stella. I'm very humbled to be here. And then I want to salute all of you, comrades, Africans. I think we are in the journey to do it, and Africa can deliver and can be delivered by only us, Africans. I want to say, that one thing that really keep me moving and that young people can learn from is courage that is guided by resilience, wisdom to chase the dream that I want to really fulfill in life. Comrades, some of our leaders that have passed, and then they have really gave us great wisdom and advice. One, Ameta Cabral of Bissau, he advised us to really work very hard as people of Africa. And he also advised us not to claim easy victories. I strongly believe in this because I know that the journey is not just easy and simple, and we really need to learn to ensure that we are taking the steps and acknowledge the failures and learn from failures to advance to deliver what we want to be. And with that, I think we can be there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lamin. Samson, is the story the same in Burundi National Youth Council, or there's another secret that you use in Burundi to get to where you are? Kindly share.
Okay, thank you. As you know, in each country, development decisions are from political parties. So as young, we must be part of winning party politics, which will allow us to take measure in order to favorize youth.
Thank you very much for that. Making sure that they're linked to political parties and aligned to political parties. This is a point similar to the one raised by the Honorable Nyayang. Thank you for that. I hope you're noticing or you're taking note of the differences between the demeanor that young people have demonstrated in the study and what you need to be to actually get into political leadership. Before we proceed, I would like to invite Ivan to share some insights about a study that we have carried out as the ULEAD program, and some information we found out about the youth leadership agenda and where exactly we see to this conversation. Ivan, the floor is yours to just take us through that. While Ivan is preparing, I want all the leaders who are in my panel to start thinking and reflecting on the theme of this summit. You know, your reflections on the theme, and for me, I want to hear from you the one thing that we must not come out of this conversation without talking about. I have heard many of you already making speeches. I've seen online speeches that have been made by all of you on part of the theme. It would be nice to just get your reflections. While you prepare, I had promised to get you to do something else that I think these people would want to hear. What is that one big mistake that you made that you would encourage these people not to make? And I said, make sure that you're going to be satirical and laugh at yourself as you tell us the story. Don't try and sugarcoat it. Ivan.
Good morning, colleagues, comrades, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. And I won't give much this morning, just to say that drawing from the conversation that our comrades from the corridors of power have been talking about, we are engaged in a journey of building on what our governments and other stakeholders have put in place, examining what results we are getting out of those, and seeing what more could be done to make it more effective. We've conducted a series of studies at ULEAD Secretariat, and these studies are being codenamed Youth Governance Architecture Studies. We have started with the East African Community region, and eventually, as you heard Sodfa say, the summit director of this year, we are going to study Africa as well, but we have started in the East African Community. We have done this study this afternoon. The patron will be launching the study, but one of the things that are really clear is that there is very, very tremendous success and progress on the arena of representation. So what has happened over the last 20 years or so, governments have worked with all stakeholders and put in place institutional, policy, and legal mechanisms for representation, majorly through quota systems and probably nominated seats for young people to be present in structures and institutions of decision-making at political level. But our studies show that these initiatives lack a mechanism for, one, holding those representatives accountable, but two, putting in place a platform where they can respond or have a dialogue with their constituencies. I know that from Uganda, my experience is Ugandan because I am Ugandan. Our members of parliament trek to the village where they were elected every other weekend, but it's on personal initiative. Those who don't, they stay in Kampala and appear in the next election. But nobody cares. So this problem of an interface, a platform for interface between my representative and me is something that is work that we need to do. And we have started thinking and working with some of the representatives here out of this study of the youth governance architecture, seeing that we have made progress on numbers, but we are comparing quantity and quality of representation. And we have initiated something called Elected Young Leaders Performance and Cooperation Peer Review Mechanism. It has to do two things. One, performance. What are they doing? If you are a National Youth Council chair or executive, what are you doing? And is it according to the expectations of the young people? That is the performance. Do you have the capacity required? Do you have the skills? Do you have the facilities you need? The other one, cooperation. There are a number of countries with national youth members of parliament, even at regional level. We have still a bit of a challenge legally because we have a regional legislative assembly, IALA, but one of the conversations I've been having with the speaker is we don't have youth representatives by law, at least. There's no quota or mechanism, provision for youth representatives by law to IALA. But he keeps saying, but Ivan, there are youth members of IALA who are young. Then I said, then they don't represent youth because they are not sent there by youth. That's a challenge. But where we have youth representation at national level, we are wondering how we can connect them to cooperate, learn together. It's rare for us to have young members of parliament or even members of parliament together like ULEAD and partners have done this year. If we don't do it, there's no mechanism for doing that. And that is the pillar 2, which is cooperation, to foster cooperation among young leaders from national councils to parliamentarians. And that is the idea that is coming as a gap from our studies, and we are initiating the process of this peer review for performance and cooperation among young representatives. I think, Stella, I will stop it there now.
Thank you very much, Ivan, for that. And don't even release that microphone. I would want you to tell the youth in this room what is the secret to being the head of Leadership and Governance Academy at MSTCDC. How did you get to the point of being the governance stalwart that you are now? And if you can, please tell us the one mistake that they should never make that you have made in your life.
Okay. I don't remember, but I have made so many. One, I will tell you a little story. I just finished my studies at university in 2011, and I submitted my thesis at around 11 a.m., and then I called a comrade who I had worked with as a university student. When I was a university student, I was a student organizer. I was a chaotic, you know. And I called him and said, I had worked on, governance, integrity in public service. I used to organize students from all universities. So I used to work with one of the organizations called Transparency International. And when I submitted my thesis, I called him at 11 a.m. on a Thursday. I told him, I won't mention the name, I have finished my studies and I'm ready to find something to do. He said, why don't you come on Monday and we discuss? Now, when he said that, I thought beyond the nose. I went and looked at their website and saw what they do in Uganda and what they don't do but they should do. And then I wrote a proposal of my usefulness to Transparency International if I got hired. And so when he expected me to come, I came with my proposal and a work plan of things I can add to their organization. Now, that is where my journey begins. And being a head of the Leadership and Governance Academy also has a story to tell. We have a beautiful facility in Arusha, very good comradeship with the East African community, but the center has not been doing much for the young people way before. It's 50 years old, I came in 2017, and there was not much for young people. And I asked the leadership then, what are we doing for the young people? There was no answer. I went to the East African Community Secretariat. What are we doing for the young people in this region? There was a policy, but not much being done. And my comrade David Onen, we had worked together at the center. So we said, let's start something. And we did that. Now the center does traditional training, which is not really good for young people. And I, as a leadership, Africa has a major challenge, and that challenge is leadership. And my challenge with leadership is not the leadership of today. Our current leaders, they are doing their best at their best. But we need to groom better leaders. And the thing that is going to do it, let's start a leadership and governance academy. And that's how we started.
Thank you very much, Ivan. The theme of the summit is creating jobs, feeding, and housing the youngest citizens of this continent. I love it. I love it. Write a proposal about your usefulness. Don't just go in there guessing or waiting for questions to shake you. Samson, what is the one mistake that you did or you made that you don't want the youth here to repeat?
Merci pour la question. Permettez-moi de m'exprimer dans la langue française, puisque au Burundi, on parle souvent du français.
Somebody please find me Kaze. Kaze, come near the microphone, please. Proceed.
Okay, yeah. Is it okay? Right. It's fine. Oh, yeah, I sit here.
What is the one mistake that Samson made in his political career that you would encourage this youth not to repeat?
Sorry, once again.
What is the one mistake he has made in his political career that you would tell this youth not to repeat?
Monsieur, elle vous pose la question. Okay. Monsieur, elle vous pose la question. Quelle est la faute que vous avez fait dans votre carrière politique et que vous souhaitez vraiment que la jeunesse africaine ne y commette jamais?
Oui, c'est la seule simple faute est que la jeunesse africaine se laisse emporter par des représentants des partis politiques.
Mm-hmm. The only mistake which I believe that African youth, they can fall in it, it's to be followed by or manipulated by these political leaders of political parties in Africa.
Au lieu de les amener dans les activités de développement, ils amènent dans les activités pouvant les permettre de détruire leur propre pays, alors qu'ils devraient se regrouper, donner des facilités leur permettant de bien exercer les activités génératrices de revenus et les activités leur pouvant de se développer.
Okay. Instead of bringing them and inspire them and show them the path of development and sustainability and give them the chance to empower themselves. No, these political leaders, they just take them to the microphone like it's noisy. No, I cannot talk. Sorry.
We can hear you very well.
You can hear me without.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, great, awesome. So what you said that these political leaders, they are manipulated our African youth, and they not give them the chance to learn, to empower themselves, and they take them to another way. They just abuse them, and and in a way like they are taking their power, their energy to their proper own political benefit, which is against the right way.
Thank you very much for that, Samson. Do not accept to be used by politicians. Do not accept to be used for negative political activity. I'm going to quickly move back to South Sudan and request that the Honorable Guy tells us the one mistake that he made. But before you tell us the one mistake, tell us the one thing that we must talk about under the theme of creating jobs, housing, and feeding the largest group of the citizens of this continent. So the one thing that we must talk about in this summit, and then tell us very sincerely that one mistake that you made that we must not repeat. 1 minute.
Well, thank you, moderator. I think the question is a bit tricky because it sounds like one has to make a confession right here. And just as a matter of giving other young people, a sense of direction, I think one mistake in my own journey, which I think I've made, and I am always willing to get it corrected, is that you must always stay focused, especially on matters of education. Education is a very important tool that we must embrace for us to make a difference in our society. And I'm not saying that I'm not taking education seriously, but I have had ups and downs in my pursuit of education. And that at this point I've not yet attained my undergraduate degree, and I'm still pursuing it, vis-a-vis my political career. Coming to the theme of the day, I think it is well thought out. Creating jobs, feeding, and housing the world's youngest continent. I think it's a well thought out theme, except that for Africa, one thing we must put first before anything else is education. Before there are jobs, people have to be made resourceful. And the only way you can make them resourceful is through education. I come from a country, South Sudan is a country that has a very low literacy rate. And I believe that for us to really go far, we must educate our population. Mahatma Gandhi, on the eve of India's independence in 1947, was interviewed by a journalist and asked to point out 3 things which India had to do so as to propel its development forward in a very short time. He said, number 1, education. Number 2, education. Number 3, education. I think he did that for the purpose of emphasis. And I think this is what we need. Africa is still lagging behind so much in terms of education. And I am very, very passionate about this. So this is one thing which I feel is missing. But about the theme, just to conclude my remarks, the youth to be given a very special that these aspects of the theme are underscored very well. It is through governance where young people like us are now participating, and where I encourage more young people to begin to take part, that we can participate and enhance the creation of more jobs through the necessary legislations. Because now the parliament, with my fellow young parliamentarians from South Sudan, we push for the creation of more jobs. We push for especially the underprivileged youth, like the street children and other less fortunate. I will leave the rest for other members to comment on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much, Honorable Mayen. I think you've done an excellent pitch for education. Young people, please remember to have a conversation about education. The Honorable Mabior, your reflections about the theme. What is the one thing that we must talk about? One thing. And then please let us into your secret of what the mistake that you made that you should never repeat. Under 1 minute.
Yes. I'll start with the theme. Yes, mention education, which is okay. But then education without matching the skills with the current market would really be a waste of time. And the most important thing is that you have to learn the skills that are actually needed by the current market industry, that are needed by the economy, for economy to move forward. And these, for our governments, to invest in education, it should be quality education that would really match with our current employment. And then also, Africa, majority of our people are actually living in rural areas. And our economy is actually based on agriculture. And if you go back to history, cottage industry actually started with agriculture, because cottage is actually cotton industry. And we have good lands that if technology is used well, then it can actually employ so many of our people. And this is actually very important for African development. And then for resources, we need value addition that would, instead of just selling our natural resources outside the continent, we have to use value addition that will create jobs in Africa. And that will employ so many youth. Now, I'll be quick in that mistakes or mistake that our youth should not do. I really have 3 lessons. One is that don't think that other person will believe in you before you believe in yourself. So first of all, believe in yourself, and then others will believe in you. This is the mistake that I made before. I felt inadequate, and I thought others will just follow me. It's not easy. And then young people should avoid shortcuts. Don't seek quick gratification or quick results. You have to work harder, and then with patience, you will be able to get where you want to be. And then the last one is that you have to associate with the like minds. Peer pressure or peer group sometimes can derail you from your vision. So if you want to get where you want to be, you have to associate with the like-minded. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Mabior, for those insights. I am made to understand that the Honorable Eche Barry Wanji has made it to the room now. Honorable Eche, I will allow you to kindly share the one mistake you've made that you'd encourage the youth here not to make in their political careers.
Thank you, moderator, for the opportunity. First, on behalf of the delegation of young parliamentarians in South Sudan, I would like to extend our thanks and gratitude to the ULEAD for hosting such an amazing, wonderful, and solid summit. The theme of the event resonates very well around me: creating jobs, feeding, and housing the youngest population. I would like to agree with one of the former speakers, delegate from South Sudan, Guy Mayen. Education is the most fundamental and imperative equalizer for us to realize and actually actualize our aspirations as African people in terms of growth and cutting across the whole spectrum. We are living in a world where economies now are basically focused not on the aspect of the financial gain, but the economies are brain-driven in the sense you inculcate the right skill sets, attitude, and knowledge into the populace, and as a result, you can derive and harness the dividends which come through that process, which is innovation. Once you have innovation, jobs are created. You reduce you create unemployment and reduce unemployment. If people are working, the government is able to derive taxes, and they're able to deliver services to the people. So education is a major pillar. But other than that, we should also be cognizant with the fact, for example, where I come from, the youth represent at least 60% of the population. So it is just fair for the youth to be put in places of decision making and decision making spaces, because they shape and they command the public opinion. So not having youth in places where decisions are made, the public opinion is not being represented, and we can even say, we can go as far as saying, governments might lack legitimacy without having a good youth representation. So the youth of both sexes, both male and female, are very pivotal point. They're very pivotal in the sense that even most of the SDGs are based on the development of youth.
Thank you.
As a sitting member of parliament, let me finish. The sitting member of parliament, I'd like
Summarize,
to,
please.
okay, thank you. I'd like to advocate for the inclusion of more youth into political spaces, so that we can change the whole narrative and open a new frontier through parliamentary legislation. We can, create favorable laws for us as youth. Eligibility. We need to, to lower the eligibility. At what age can a member contest to be in the parliament? These things, we all need to reduce them. We need to create a favorable space for young people to be active and participate in the political spaces. The only mistake I've made, as a youth, and I would like to give advice to other youth, is please don't allow yourself to be a sycophant. Personality cults have become, a common diet in Africa. It's something we should not pursue. We should not pursue personality cults. Follow your conviction and have a steadfast conviction. Do what is right. And that is the only experience I'd like to share.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad I let you speak to the end, because that point you have made is extremely important. Don't be a sycophant. Be a leader of your own and of your own style. Franklin, as the microphone comes to the front, we are being told that we must talk about education. We must talk about youth space in governance and ensuring that we discuss how young people are going to get their spaces on the decision-making tables. We are being told that we must talk about agriculture and how we are going to use technology to advance agriculture and employ very many young people. And I like the direction that this conversation is taking. I'm going to come to the table. The Honorable Nyayang Riek, your reflections on the topic, what is the one thing that we must discuss, and especially with your experience from the Pan-African Parliament, I'm sure you have a bird's eye view of exactly what we need to cover under this topic. And then, of course, what is that one mistake that you made that young people should not repeat?
Thank you so much. I will start with the question of what mistake did I make, and I would encourage the young people not to do. In 2010, when we went for elections, I was 22 years old, and I had chance to go for elections. I was actually working with the commission, the election commission, but within the process, we had 2 members that were rejected based on issue of qualifications. I had chance my name to get in, but I was also a request by my boss to recommend the second person, in which I failed to do. I was convened by my community elder not to bring any young person, only myself, plus the people they want. So they convened me, and I went based on what they told me. And later on, when we came to the parliament, only the young MP from that area, I feel I have made a mistake. I wish I did not listen to them. And this brings me to the point of, as a young person, when you are leaving, leave that space for another young person like you. This is the only way we will get in all. Because some people, when you are in position, you look at yourself, but it is not about you. It is about the young generation behind you, about the population of young people in Africa. So I'd encourage each one of us work for the space of young people, and when you are leaving, make sure it is young person is taking your place. Coming to the issue of the theme of the summit, I think we go for job creation. When you have work, you have everything. You will feed yourself, you will have everything. And my honorable member has said, for us in South Sudan, we have enough land. But yet we are not making use of that land. I and Honorable Gole, the youth union, we are coming from a community of cattle keepers. our people are busy killing themselves for cattle. They value cattle life more than their own life. So what makes them to value cattle? Simply because they are not engaged. They don't have other better thing to do than to keep cattle. So I encourage youth in the area of agriculture. You know, agriculture is for free. You don't need to take a permission from a politician, senior politician, to come and help you to cultivate in your own village. It is your own your own decision as individual to cultivate. And also, you know, we have rights that are given to us by international law. For example, if you see the SDs, the SD 2030, we all have the right. You can ask for donation from NGOs. If you want to cultivate, they will help you with the easier facilities to help yourself. So all in all, as an African to young people, some of us believe in giving. The culture is telling us when your father is rich, automatically you are a rich, which does not exist in this generation. We don't need to inherit what our fathers have. We need to work hard for ourselves to be who we wanted to be. So what affects most an African youth is believing you will, if your father is a minister, definitely you are the most senior person, you know, in the country, simply because your father is a minister, but you are not a minister. So let us be independent. If we believe to be a different generation and make change, let us also have an independent mind. I believe those who are in politics, 70% are sons of former ministers, MPs, president. The poor person in the grassroots, his chance will never get chance to get into this. But if we, the leaders, believe a leader is not a son of leader, if somebody can be brought from zero to lead us, then we will work closely to our people in the grassroots. So I encourage the idea of agriculture that will help the simple man in the grassroots. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nyayang. And I like that the lady on the panel has received the first ovation from the room. I love it. I am going to quickly move on to Honorable Boniface. Your reflections on the theme, what is this topic that we must talk about? And then what is your one mistake? And because you are part of my email brief, I want you to stick to the assignment. Make sure that we laugh at the goof that you made that we should not repeat.
I'll start with the mistake so that I can get the opportunity to confess when I'm talking about the theme. I'm an engineering, a graduate of engineering school, just like my chairperson of the Youth Council and my brother, the MP, the Member of Parliament, who were at Makerere around the same time. One of the mistakes that I've made, and I would encourage many of the young leaders here not to make, is that many times as young leaders, we look at politics as an end in itself. And sometimes we'll forget to invest in our communities in probably aspects that we are experts or we are qualified in. I recall when I completed my engineering degree, a couple of people interested me in starting up a farm or even a mentorship program to help build the capacity of other young leaders at the time. And I delayed to make that decision until a friend of mine came and shared with me a story. And I've shared with some of my Ugandan colleagues this story before. My friend told me that one time there was a sailor and a professor on the same boat, and they set out on the sea. And when they set out on the sea, the professor asked the fisherman whether the fisherman understood oceanology. And the fisherman said, "Professor, I do not have absolutely no idea what oceanology is." The professor said, "Maybe you understand biology or ecology." He said, "No, I absolutely have no idea. And then they kept quiet. The professor told him, unfortunately, ignorance will kill you one day. So they continued their sail, and in the middle of the sea, there was a very heavy turbulence. And the fisherman turned back to the professor and asked him, Mr. Professor, do you know swimology? And the professor said, unfortunately, I don't know swimology. The fisherman told him, oh, then crocodileology will etology because of your big mouthology. So may the professor's soul rest in peace. So when my friend shared with me that story, I said, this was about 2 years ago, I said, I think I need to have a mentorship program for young people. And I also need to have at least an engineering firm, because I had taken way too many years and not invested. Because I believe that Africa's development will be private sector led, and we certainly must, as leaders, invest in the private sector ourselves, so that we lead by example. We just don't lead by mere words, but we can show that, you know, this is the way to go. Then my comments on the theme of today. The theme of today is about job creation. It is also about feeding and housing. On job creation, I want to first of all urge that it is important that we encourage our governments to invest in sectors that are attractive to the young people. In Uganda, as we speak now, we've defined about 5 sectors that we think are sectors that can employ as many young people. One is commercial agriculture. Secondly, is the sector of industries. Thirdly, is the sector of services. And fourth is the sector of ICT, information, communication, and technology. And then the other sector is the sector of creative industries. That is sports, our young people in the performing arts. These are sectors that we must encourage our governments to heavily invest in, so that we can have as many young people. The other, of course, is our policy reforms. As a member of parliament, much of our work is about reforming policies. For example, last night when I was looking through my hotel room, I saw they were picking garbage in Arusha town here.
Summarize, please. Summarize, please.
You know, the theme is relatively wide. Through you, I pray you give me 1 more minute. Thank you.
I beg you, Honorable Member, my time is really limited.
Oh, okay.
Summarize.
Then, on the aspect of feeding, one of the crises of our time is climate change. And, you know, looking at our numbers as young people, 70% of our population in East Africa are young people. We must encourage the aspect of greening our economy so that we address the aspect of climate change, which in effect will ensure we have food security as Africa, and also mechanization of agriculture, drought-resistant varieties of crops. And we need to improve research and innovation, especially in the aspect of agriculture. Then finally, on the issue of housing, which is it's mostly an urban poor problem. You know, in the era of job creation, most of the young people are now shifting from the rural places to the urban centers. And we need to have low-cost housing for our young people. Urban planning certainly has to be at the core, drainage and so on, and encouraging innovations in the building sector. Finally, in 10 seconds.
Stop you, please. Please. Please, so that I can just allow everyone else to speak. We are really, really limited on time. Africana, because the microphone is in your hands, and you're not yet a politician, so please.
Yes.
Keep it within 25 seconds. The one thing that we must talk about in this summit, I was getting excited as the Honorable Okot was speaking, because the things we talked about at the one meeting when you're planning the one campaign are actually coming up. What is that one thing? And what is your mistake?
Actually, you've just mentioned the one campaign on job creation that we'll be taking in the next 5 years, and we're looking for partners to engage with us on that. One thing that actually came up from that, or rather two, agriculture and the creative industry, which is actually mentioned, has been largely ignored. Agriculture is critical. Of course, 70% of us youth, are in our population, and most of them are in the rural areas. So that one thing we need to do is ensure that agriculture plugs through this summit, and it's critical, especially tomorrow when we talk about jobs. And then, of course, I've mentioned the creative sector. I think one, experience I've had in terms of a mistake, it's a group mistake, and I hope we don't make it just something that you can have in mind. We once had, we came together as a youth organization in university. That was back in 2014. And we had really great ideas of youth leaders. And this initiative, we even crafted a constitution and everything. We had it together. And we're going to even register, But then our leader, and I think it's not just a personal responsibility, it's a group initiative responsibility also, decided to approach some people, for support as well. But he ended up trusting someone who was high level, and he has the title and everything, and shared the idea and everything. In fact, also shared the constitution, which was a huge mistake, because once, almost like a month later, when you're going to register, we found that it had actually been registered by that person, and it was a huge mistake for us. We had to go back to square one. And we wish we were in the room together. So make sure you have your people together as you go do these initiatives, make decisions together, like the Honorable mentioned as well. And together you'll be able to succeed. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Africana. It is obvious you got onto this panel because you're a politician on the way. Jacob Eru, your reflections on the theme, what is that one thing we must talk about, and then your mistake?
Thank you. Let me start with the mistake. It's easier to let it out early. There is a tendency for young people to, when they're speaking at you, they can be aggressive and not assertive. Aggressive. They can warn government on TV, but the person warning government has not even paid their rent. And so we were at university at the time, and our government had just launched the campaign to register people for national IDs. And so because we're very politically active with my brother here, for us, we decided that since we are students, this is a ploy by the government to register and spy on us because we are politically active. So we decided we are not going to register for the national ID. And we waited. But the next year was election year, and we wanted to participate in that election year. What happened the next year was that government required people who have national IDs to participate. For us, after making press conferences, after warning people about the intentions of government and so on, now we are the ones pleading with technical staff. Is there a way I can get that ID very quickly? And so on. And that's a big mistake. An inflated sense of self-worth, where as a young person, you feel like you're too high, and you feel like some of these things that young people do are not what you do. You are above that. That's a big mistake we made then. We made up for it that time. We had to pretend. People asked us whether we voted. We'd say, yeah, I voted, but you would not look back while answering the question. You'd walk away quickly because your eyes will give you away. So you would lie about that. Coming to the theme, I want to say very quickly that the theme in Africa, and I think that the theme has captured the core areas.
But I also think the theme has captured the areas where Africa is limping in a current sense, but also in a forward-looking sense. IMF last year, towards the end of the year, released statistics of what is necessary for Africa. IMF projects that what we are not going to hit our targets on SDGs are employment, poverty, education, and so on. And they say we have a 15% gap on the money we need or financing needs for us to meet 2030 goals. So it basically means that IMF is saying Africa is not going to work for young people by 2030 because these are the core things: housing, jobs, health, education. These are the core things for young people. I therefore think, because of the interest of time, that we as young people need to now begin thinking more creatively. How do we inspire our communities to be big multiplying communities of job factors? How do we take advantage of regional economic blocks to build those? My brother here has just spoken about him starting an engineering firm. I want to see that young people are taking advantage of present technology, to create a bigger job boom for Africa. But we also need these young people that speak a lot of English.
Summarize.
Yes, and that's the last point. That speak a lot of English from universities to go to rural areas and sort the necessities, because you understand the economics, you understand market factors, but you're the ones not going to determine the value chain of agriculture. You don't even need to have a farm yourself. You just need to be willing, as someone that reached university, to go back to your community and give some basic advice on how they can become profitable from their gardens and what they do. My last word is the quote from Mwalimu Nyerere, who said that the reason why young people in Africa go to the university is so that they can act on the sacrifice of their villages that have to gather their millet and their sorghum to send you to school, so you can go on that long journey and pick the water they need to grow the rest of the crops. I thank you.
Thank you very much for that and for the wisdom in the end. Honorable Rugumayo, your reflections, the one thing that we must talk about, and then of course your mistake.
Thank you so much, Stella. Let me take this opportunity to thank the development partners, the organizers and participants of this great discussion. And let me also use this opportunity to say I am one person who strongly believes in the discussion and the processes we are going through now, because I've seen the small miracles that such discussions can bring forward. On the theme, allow me start by saying that it is important that as young leaders and as young parliamentarians, we don't shy away from telling government that they have a very central role in facilitating the creation of jobs of young people here in East Africa, and that it is very imperative that they wake up quickly and see what is happening. Very many young people getting out of Africa trying to find a living elsewhere, which is very shameful. My colleagues in the Parliament of Sudan made very important objective points. South Sudan, made objective points. And this is the issue of education. But I would like to delve in deeper and say, not just education,